Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Bald Explorer Live. I'm Richard Vobes. It's 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock? 4 o'clock even. Let me just get my trousers into my knees are catching on my trousers. What is that I'm rolling on? Sorry, not terribly organised in the studio today. Good afternoon to the lovely Julia and to Steve G and to Adrian Turbo Stream. Thank you very much for passing by, and anybody else who happens to have tuned in and hasn't waved or said hello, fair dinkum. We are reading In Search of England by HV Morton. I always look at the spine and as if to go, I don't know what book we're reading. It's all a bit close. There we go. And we are we are 3/4 of the way through. So we're cracking on quite well with this one. Hello to Audrey Forbes Hamilton. Nice to see you. See you with a sibilant S. Hope you're all well on this. It's a hot day. I've been to 2 churches today to film for videos for tomorrow and the next day with young ringer Ollie. And I've edited the first one. It's come out. And actually, it should be... Oh, I need to go and... I need to turn my other machine off. Hang on one minute. I just need to go and turn my machine off in the other room. I don't want to leave it. It should have uploaded. Just talk amongst yourselves for a second. I will straight back. Sorry, I didn't mean to desert you. I didn't mean to desert everybody. I am here. I just had to... Yes, I just uploaded it. It's now uploaded, ready for tomorrow. It's got to have the thumbnail and description and all of that, and it just sits there quietly unobtrusive on rhubarb. There we are. Julia's keeping everybody going. Thank you very much, Julia, for that. Yeah, sorry about that. It was just doing its upload, and I came in here whilst it was uploading thinking, oh, yeah, it'll just be uploaded by the time I go live here, and it has. Sunny here in Sussex. Yes, whereabouts in Sussex are you, Ria? Quick talk about him whilst he's gone. Yeah, of course you do realise that I'd be able to read it all. Dan Ludlow, hello to you. Nice to see you. Thank you for popping in. Oh, good. Edward Moulding is there. Hello, Ducky, I think. Is that a ducky you've got or a chicken? Ramiboo, hi. First time I've been awake for a reading. Oh, and she's just retracted that. Fair enough. I read it. I saw it. Oh, Brighton. Yeah, sunny in Brighton, I imagine. It's lovely and sunny in Worthing. But we're going up to Wigan. All of us. Come on the charabang. Up we go. Wigan. Were it not inhabited by a race of sturdy and rather tough Lancashire folk, would be the most self-conscious town in England. For years it has suffered from a joke, the words Wigan Pier, spoken by a comedian on the music hall stage, are sufficient to make an audience howl with laughter, and the ease with which the name works on the sensibilities of an audience is probably in some measure responsible for the great success of this joke. Never understood the joke about Wigan and Wigan Pier. Wigan, to millions of people who have never seen and never will see the town, represents the apex of the world's pyramid of gloom. So serious has the Wigan joke become that the Go-Ahead Corporation, who are full of local pride, take what steps they can to counteract it. But the silly old joke goes on. Certain Wigonians of high commercial standing believe that this joke delays the prosperity of Wigan, which not only affords rich sites for new factories, but also offers all the necessary conditions for manufacture, such as good transport, labour and coal, so to speak, laid on in normal times. Oh, you're back, Rammy Boo. First time I've been awake for a reading since you started with this book. Oh, right, fair enough. Got it. Now I have been in Wigan 10 minutes, and when I saw that I had been in Wigan just 10 minutes when I saw there is no joke. Wigan is a spa compared with towns like Wednesbury. Is it Wednesbury? Wednesbury in the Black Country, and with certain of the Staffordshire pottery towns. I admit, frankly, too, I share the common idea of Wigan. I admit that I came here to write an impression of unrelieved gloom, of dreary streets and stagnant canals and white-faced Wigonians dragging their weary steps along dull streets haunted by the horror of the place in which they are condemned to live. This is nonsense. I would not mind spending a holiday in Wigan, a short one. This town has been badly labelled, I said to a man who was standing in the main street. I'm reet glad to hear thee say that. I don't quite know what accent that they have up north. It's up north, isn't it? I'm right glad to hear that, he said warmly. I've lived in Wigan all my life and wish for no better town. I'm probably killing the accent, but never mind. I've killed them all so far, so why stop now? He beamed on me. He beamed on me. Not at me. He beamed on me. He offered to show me the chief glories of Wigan. Where does that ever happen in real life, that you just see a man standing in a street in a strange town and you say, oh, look at this lovely street. It's not as bad as everybody says it is. And then in the next breath, oh, hello, stranger. I tell you what, lad, I'll take you around and show all the glories of the town. I've got nothing better to do. It's like that never really happens, does it? This is a little bit of poetic license here. But anyway, Wigan's unless, of course, it's just that pub over there, lad. That's all the glories of Wigan's ever got to offer. Wigan's swift reaction to praise is rather pathetic. Now, when you enter Wigan expecting the worst, it is surprising to find a place which still bears all the signs of an old-fashioned country town. Its wide main street meanders down a hill in a casual, leisurely way. And along this street are many modern, half-timbered buildings. Oh, I see, yeah, it's sort of 1920s fakes, are they? Corporation of Wigan has made a rule that buildings in the main streets must be rebuilt in the Tudor style, so that in 20 years or so there will not be a more original or better looking manufacturing town in the north of England. Well, that's not a bad policy, is it? If they were to build more Georgian properties, I think you'd have a very elegant town instead of all this modern steel and glass. During an hour's walk around Wigan, I discovered many things. Wigan was made by the Romans. They call it, oh, here we go, cosium. That does sound like some drug that you take after a bad night out. Have you got any cosium? Oh, my head is going round and round. Which I think is a much funnier name. Yes, it is a bit funny. Perhaps the legions went into fits of laughter when anyone said cosium in Roman Britain. All that remains of cosium is a Roman altar, which I found built in the north window bay of the tower of the fine but much restored 14th century church. King Arthur knew Wigan. It is famed as the scene of some of his most glorious exploits. Beyond the market square, I entered a park about 30 acres. Blimey, it's a big old park. In it were Italian gardens and an ornamental lake. In slandered Wigan, I found one of the few good war memorials I've seen in England, First World War, presumably, and also the largest open market place outside Nottingham. But no one could tell me the meaning of the word Wigan, so I went to the town clerk. "The deviation is obscure," he said. "It's Saxon, of course, for which we're very proud. It's very old. The Wigan motto is ancient and loyal, you know. I believe that the word Wigan means the rowan trees near the church." "And this," I said, "is the name that rocks 1,000 stalls?" "Aye, yes, it is," he replied. "The Wigan joke has gone too far. It is surprising what a joke can do to a town. It can spread an entirely false idea. Now, just let me take you to the outskirts of Wigan, and you will agree that few manufacturing towns are surrounded by such rustic scenery." So he just pops to the town clerk, as you do. I'll just pop in and ask him, "Excuse me, mate. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm ever so busy. Can you go and talk to a receptionist?" No, just wanted to talk to you. I'm writing a book." I don't care. I'm sorry, I've got a council meeting in 5 minutes." "No, but I want to find out about Wigan." "Oh, yes. Well, I tell you what, come with me and I'll give you a guided tour. Never mind the council duties I have and all the stuff that people pay me to do at a whim to get out of stuffy Wigan. I'll take you around countryside. Come on." That just does not happen, does it? That just does not happen. We went round Wigan. Before we had left the town, we smelt hay. Wigan is surrounded by fields which rise on the north towards Duxbury Hall, the only American pilgrimage in this part of the world, where the doughty Miles Standish was probably born. On the main road we came to the scene of Wigan's most cherished legend, a rough stone cross. "That," explained the town clerk, "is Mab's Cross. It's mentioned in Sir Walter Scott's The Betrothed. The story is that while Sir William Bradshaw, a knight of Wigan, was away on the Crusades, his wife, Mabel, believing him to have been killed, married a Welsh knight. Sir William came home suddenly and discovered what had happened and killed the Welsh knight, for he was outlied, and for which he was outlied for a year. Oh, heck! His wife Mabel was publicly shamed. Her confessor imposed this penalty, that once a week she must walk barefooted and bare-legged to Mab's Cross. I believe it all ended happily, and the husband and wife came back together again. Aye, had a great big snog by the cross. It was lovely. Within 5 minutes of notorious Wigan, we were in the depth of the country. On either side were the fields in which men were making hay. Old bridges, not that kind of making hay, thank you. Old bridges spanned streams. There were high hedges, delicious little woods and valleys. "This is Wigan," said the town clerk with a smile. This town is interesting as a perfect example of a busy industrial town with a fine record in pre-industrial England. Wigan is not a mushroom town that grew up overnight on a coalfield. It has history, and behind it the tradition of centuries of loyalty to the crown. Henry I incorporated the town in 1100. A specimen of the 12th century seal is still in existence. During the civil wars, Cromwell pursued the retreating royalist army through the streets of Wigan, and in 1651 the Earl of Derby suffered a defeat at the Battle of Wigan Lane, which cost him his head. When the mayor of Wigan goes out in state, a sword is borne before him, which was given to the town in 1660 by Charles II in special token of his favour for the loyalty of Wigan at the Restoration. That was the closing event in Wigan's pre-industrial history. Then came King Cole in the 19th century, and Wigan began a new life. Anyway, let's have a look, see what the comments are. Hello to everybody. Morton should know the lingo. Richard, you need to say thur and pur. That does happen in the north. Oh, thur and pur. Right, okay. Thur and pur. What do they mean, thur and pur? Thur and pur is my missus. All right. It's a great town for pubs. There are more pubs per yard than anywhere else. I need to go and cut the rhubarb, says Rammy Boo. What, now, in the middle of the night? You can't do that. The park is stunning. 30, what did he say it was? 300 acres. Bloody hell. I've not been to Wigan. I'll have to go. Wish it was cool, says Thingy. Good afternoon, says good afternoon. I mean, Andrew Norris says good afternoon. Looking at the map, that part of Lancashire is a maze of small towns and crisscross crossing roads. Yeah, so there we go. North Lancs is fantastic, says Andrew Norris. The Ribble Valley, Downham, Trough of Bowland, Lun Valley and Lancaster. Lancaster. Lancaster, don't you pass Lancaster on the M6? Over there, pair of gloves. I've got a pair of gloves here. A pair of gloves that indoors will wear. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it completely terribly. I joined the Windermere queue at Lancaster and hoped for the best. Everyone in the north of England seemed at this moment to have decided to visit what the guidebooks call so inanely the land of lake poets. In front of me was a heavy 45 horsepower touring car containing a rigid old man in a young Stetson. In front of him was a dashing two-seater driven by a woman. In front of her was a closed limousine full of American tourists. And in front of them was a family in a Ford. In front of that was a Rolls-Royce, and leading the procession was a hatless young obstructionalist lying full length in a 15 horsepower scarlet bath with aluminium fittings and an exhaust pipe like a stovepipe. Behind me, the queue lengthened car after car. My immediate neighbour, a neat saloon in the fair but reckless hands of a beautiful maiden who, by edging in and nosing my suitcases, seemed to be doing all she could to kill her and her father and mother. Had they been her brother, I could have been rude to him. So we sped lakewards. How sweet the solitude would be tonight, I thought, as I kept my eye on the packed highway. Those words written by Lakeland's chief historic character came most opportunely even, to mind. Those tourists, heavens preserve us, needs must live a profitable life, some glance along, rapid and gay as if the earth were air, and they were butterflies to wheel about, long as the summer lasted. Poetry is not my best thing to understand or speak. I don't understand the cadence of it. Those tourists, heavens preserve us, needs must live a profitable life, some glancing along, rapid and gay, as if the earth were air, and they were butterflies to wheel about, long as the summer lasted. And if you understood any of that, please write me an essay in good old English prose that explains it. This is a remarkable prophecy. One might think that gentle Wordsworth, writing long before the first motor car, had been granted a vision of the main Windermere Road in 1926. Wordsworth, didn't he write what's that one about butterflies? Didn't he write I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high and vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Beside the lake, beneath the tree, they nestle soft as daisies, fluttering and dancing in the breeze, like Magnus Pike with rabies. I'm not sure if he wrote that one. That may have come from the Burkus Way to Dynamic Living. Anyway. And now all the beauty of the day is gathered, as by the hand of God in the west. The sun is setting behind the hills. Through my window I see a great sheet of water that within the last 20 minutes had lost all colour. The blue of Windermere has been drained away drop by drop as the blue has been drawn by the sky. It is now silver. The white swans are black against this glittering metallic sheet. The swallows fly high in wide circles. A jet-black boat moves on the placid surface of the lake, 2 silver lines widening from the stern. The sun, lost in a rich, smouldering bank of cloud, drops minute by minute towards the crest of the hills. In the stillness sounds carry far, such sounds. Sorry, just looking to see if there was anything interesting that anybody had written, and there wasn't. 2 charabancs prepare me to return to Kendal. A straggling band of Lancashire men in their Sunday clothes come slowly along by the lakeside playing a concertina. Girls in summer dresses with blue string bags over their cropped hair, and young men whose bare necks rise from tennis shirts, pass down the hill singing. Motor cars hoot at the hairpin bend, and in the next room to mine, a gramophone says that there will be tea for 2 and 2 for tea, a boy for you and a girl for me. Tea for 2 and 2 for tea. A boy for you, a girl for me. Tea for 2 and 3 lumps for you. Dee doo ba doo doo doo. Anyway, with shattering indifference to man, the black and silver nocturne of evening, it is played to the end. The sun goes, darkness spreads between the trees, a deep grape blue mist hangs over the woods. A fish jumps in the lake, making a black pool for a second in the still silver water. Ooh! Say, a voice has just cried beneath my window, if it isn't too perfect. Why, it's just like one of his sonnets. This is obviously an American. It doesn't say, oh my. Oh my. Isn't this just too perfect? Why, it's just like one of his sonnets. Shall I throw a boot or just go on smiling? A grave temptation. Slowly, and so gradually that it is almost imperceptible, comes that moment when a man watching the lovely pageant of light and half-light can say that the night has come. Over the dark hills and the pale waters is an unearthly radiance, which is not that of either sun or moon, but something, it seems, like a cold light that washes the mountains of dead moons. Above the hills burns the first small star. Bing! Or as Nigel Sadler would say, ping! But I guess he's not there to say it today. No matter what your opinion may hold of Wordsworth as a poet, you must recognise him as a great, but unconscious, publicity agent. The solitudes which he loved are now well populated. Americans who come here in enthusiastic waves stand reverently before his cottage in Grasmere. The hunger for a pilgrimage of any kind appears to be a deep-seated spiritual necessity with them. I found 2 of them playing homage to the house in which Harriet Martineau wrote her Guide to the Lakes in 1855. One of England's great sights is that of a New York businessman determined to get every cent's value from his tour, trying to work up enthusiasm for Wordsworth in the little churchyard at Grasmere. A rock there is, whose homely front... Oh, I suppose I should do this in an American accent, shouldn't I? I have no idea how does this is. A rock there is, whose homely front the passing traveller sights. Yet there is a glowworm hang their lamp-posts, like stars at various heights, and one coy primrose to the rock the vernal breeze invites. Gee, that's great stuff. Say, listen, while I read it again. It's just so quaint. Listen, a rock there is whose homely front the passing traveller sights. Yet there is the glowworm, a glowworm, banging the lamps like stars at various heights. It does rhyme, honey. It does rhyme. And one coy primrose to the rock the vernal breezes invite. Do you understand any of that, honey? That is just pure gold. That is art. You know, you understand that? That's art, honey. That's art. Thanks, mate. The population of Lakeland, isn't that a shop where you can buy kitchen stuff, may be divided into two groups. Those who stay on the water level, sail in boats, seek suicide in their cars on the narrow roads, and drink coffee in evening dress. Yes, it did actually say seek suicide in the narrow cars in their cars on narrow roads, and drink coffee in evening dress after dinner on neat lawns at the lakeside. And those who, rising early, put on the khaki shoots, grasp stout sticks, and leave the ground level before first group has even had its morning tea. I would be, of course, in the latter there. I would have had my khaki shorts on and my stout stick. Not that I would have had a stout stick, but I suppose in 1920 stout sticks were everything. These picturesque ones are, to my mind, the only people who get true value from the lakes. Had I more time, I would buy a scout's outfit and join them. For the only way to enjoy this country is to climb away from the crowds and seek solitude in the bosky silence of woods or on the craggy heights of fells. I like to see the real Lakelanders returning, covered in dust and victory, as the shades of night are falling fast. Among them are men who would not say thank you for Switzerland, and there are brown-faced muscular girls in breeches and stockings who carry rucksacks on their back and grasp stout ash sticks. I wish someone would design a pair of breeches which girls could wear without looking quaint or regrettable. He is a bit of an old lech, isn't he? Then there are the bug hunters of all types. They chase butterfly by day and the moth by night. Then there are geologists. There are, of course, ambitious maidens who steal off with the camp stool and a drawing board to transfer part or a portion of the landscape to a drawing room wall in Manchester or Liverpool or Birmingham, and even so experience warns a man, Kensington. I will not dare to compare the sort of beauty of Windermere with the majesty of Derwent water, or the great solitude of Ullswater, or the high serenity of Thirlmere or Coniston. Why not? Is it not as good? If I have any preference, it is for the smallest of them all, Little Rydal Water, which is 3/4 of a mile long, and besides these watery giants is just a spoonful of blue in a cup of green hills. Rydal Water is a magic, satisfying lakelet, a little looking-glass in which the woody heights by which it is hemmed lies as in a mirror. I saw it first at night. It was a clear moonlit night, Mrs. Reed. You're buying a toaster. It was a clear moonlit night, with no breath of wind among the trees. In the middle of the little lake, round and golden as a guinea, lay the moon. Sights such as this, hiding round a corner, lurking behind the trees, and suddenly revealed, pull a man up sharply and fling him on his knees. Had Rydal Water been in Cornwall or in Wales, Nothing could have disconnected it from the Excalibur legend, and most men would have believed it, for this is a mystic mere. As I looked, a waterfowl, surprised among the dark reeds, flew noiselessly over the lake in the night, its little feet just tearing a thin silver line in the water. The moon danced up and down once or twice, then the lake composed itself and went on dreaming. Isn't that so picturesque? That is remarkably clear, isn't it? You can see that. As I looked, a waterfowl, surprised among the dark reeds, flew noiselessly over the lake. You see a wide shot, don't you? Its feet just tearing a thin silver line in the water. You can see that so clearly. And then, as it disrupted the moon danced up and down once or twice. Then the lake composed itself and went on dreaming. Beautifully, just so beautifully put. Beautifully. He's a really good writer. He churned out stuff, I gather, old Morton, but really, really well. What have we got? Let's have a look at some of the comments and see if you've got something interesting for me to read. I'll pull out Lancashire on the list of places to visit, although I always associate it with cotton mills, says Rhea. Oh, well, I don't think it's... No, there's Pendle Hills, for example, or the Pendle Hill, where the witches brew. Turbo, have you several, blah, blah. Rhea, have you, would stay in... Oh, they're just talking to themselves. Okay, I'll check this out. Thanks. Right, okay, thanks for that. Daffodils, yes. I wandered lonely as a cloud. I'll just stick to reading, shall I? I won't bother reading out your lot, because you're just talking to your bloody selves all the time. I don't know. This story has no right in this book, and I apologise for writing it. It happened like this. I was finding my way out of Carlisle with the intention of crossing the Roman wall that runs across England from Solway Firth to the Tyne when I saw a signpost. To Gretna Green, 10 miles. I pulled up sharply. This, I said, is where I go right off the rails. I must see Gretna Green. I will take a holiday and go to Scotland. How could I neglect to visit the scene of so much folly? In a few minutes I had left England behind me and was spinning along in a country that looked, well, exactly like it, but it was not. I had crossed the border. Scotland does not begin to get bony just there, but it was stimulating to realise that we were in the land of the red whiskers and freckled maids, of brown trout streams, of purple moors, of great mountains, which, even in fair weather, wear white caps of cloud. At the cottage doors clustered brawny, sandy-haired boys, who some day, of course, would go south, and little girls who would grow up and speak in the most delicious English in the world. The road runs straight from Carlisle to Gretna, as if anxious to cut off all the corners and give a sporting finish to the race. At the end of the road, in the heart of a great crowd, I found Gretna Green. The blacksmith shop stands facing the high road, a long one-storey building, half dwelling house, half smithy. This is the building which rose to fame in 1754 when Lord Hardwicke's Act put a stop to the scandal of secret marriages in England. Before this Act became law, secret weddings were held in many places in London, notably the Fleet Prison, Parson Keith's Chapel in Mayfair, now pulled down. The memory lives, however, in the names East and West Chapel Streets, west of Shepherd's Market and Piccadilly, and in the Savoy, where a notorious clergyman, Dr. John Wilkinson, used to advertise boldly, "Marriages performed with the utmost privacy, secrecy, decency and regularity. There are 5 private ways by land to this chapel and 2 by water." Scotland was not affected by the Act of 1754, with the result that Gretna, the first village over the border, began to hear with financial satisfaction the clatter of a flying coach and four along the Carlisle road, and occasionally the report of a pistol as a defiant lover took pot shot at the pursuing coach horses. "Come back here, you blighter!" I seem to remember that one Archbishop of Canterbury, 3 Lord Chancellors and 1 Privy Seal were married over the anvil of Gretna. A large crowd stood before the smithy. Half were Americans, the other half tourists from over the border. The smithy looked to me like the most practical proposition I've seen for many a day. Its front was plastered with notices to the effect that within was a museum, that the famous marriage room was on view, and postcards were obtainable. I might have known that Gretna Green would by now be thoroughly sophisticated. The air was sweet with the sound of a pleasant Scotswoman collecting the gate money. I banged down my 6pence and went in through the turnstile. In the old and now disused smithy, who with 1 ounce of commercial acumen would waste this... I'll read that again. In the old and now disused smithy, who with 1 ounce of commercial acumen would waste this forge on horses, I wandered round the crowd gazing at a rather dull little museum. The stagecoach used by Queen Caroline, anvils, the old marriage register, 2 rather appropriate repentance stools from the old kirk, a tall stovepipe hat worn by various Gretna priests, and I went out and talked to the caretaker who was selling a tourist a replica of a Gretna Green marriage certificate. "You still have marriages here?" I asked. "Och, aye," said the caretaker in a very broad accent, because Vobes can only do that. 22 this year. Oh, it's a woman. She pointed to a bundle of papers on a shelf. They were certificates. "Who performs the ceremony?" "Well, somebody's asked for the blacksmith, Mr. Graham, but generally my husband is the priest." I entered the inner room and had a chat with the priest. This word means nothing. Marriage in Scotland is a regular or irregular affair, both equally valid. If 2 people affirm their willingness to marry before witnesses, I imagine they can be married in a street. "Will you marry me?" I asked the priest. Oh, wait a minute. It's a he now all of a sudden. He looked interest. "Aye," he said solemnly, "that I will, if ye hath 21 days in Scotland." I appeared crestfallen. He told me that the ceremony is simple. "I just say to the man, 'Do ye take this woman to be your wedded wife?' And he says, 'I will.' And I turn to the girl and say," I can't do the accent very well. "I turn to the girl and say, 'Do ye take this mon to be your wedded husband?' And she says, 'I will.' They sign the paper, and I sign the paper, and the twa witnesses sign the paper, and they're lawful spouses according to the laws of Scotland. That I knew you're buying a toaster. There 'tis. Aye, there 'tis." "And is it legal?" "Oh, aye." I told him that I would consider it. I learned that the old Gretna Green chase is not yet dead. Quite recently the priest was awakened in the middle of the night by an agitated mother — in the old ways it was always the father — who demanded to know if her daughter had a runaway marriage. Poor body, she was a wee bit peevish, for they came the very next day. I found it difficult to feel romantic about Gretna. I suppose its chief atmosphere has always been commercial. Joseph Paisley, the old priest of the Gretna marriage business, had a secret code with the postilions in order to find out what his clients were likely to be worth to him. They say he often made £100 a week. The picture of a simple-minded old blacksmith joining two star-crossed lovers in wedlock is not historically correct. I took the Carlisle Road again, that road on which, long ago, Lord Westmoreland, eloping with Miss Child of Child's Bank, gained Gretna by shooting the leading horse of his father-in-law's team as its straining head drew level with the coach window. There is, however, something about Gretna that makes one sympathise with the apoplectic fathers in the coach behind. And that, my friend, a chaid or new, is chapter 8, all done and new. We now begin on chapter 9. Tales of reign over Hadrian's wall, of Durham and its saint, of the splendour and glory of York, ending with a glimpse into the ancient heart of this city. I have no idea what I just said, because I read it terribly wrong. How are we doing? We got time for a bit of chapter? No point reading what you've been saying, because it's exactly who Richard sounded like when he was doing an American accent. Hello, wait a minute. I cycled to Gretna from Carlisle in February while looking after my late uncle. I hope you didn't marry him. Gretna Green is a tourist place now. The old blacksmith shop does good business with Chinese tourists. Very good. Do they always ask for a... do the Chinese tourists ask for a marriage? That I'm not even going to do the joke. I'm not even going to do the joke. I'll get done. I always associate Gretna with ladders up to bedroom windows. Ah, yes. That's the way you get out of the house. And then you get onto the horse and you ride. The smithy is still a museum, says Turbo, 100 years later. It's funny, isn't it? It could be a museum of 100 years ago of when Morton visited, or a museum of several hundred years ago when previous people got married there. It's quite bizarre, isn't it? I don't know if it is quite bizarre. It's probably not bizarre at all. Chapter 9, ladies and gentlemen. Time for a swig of water. Ooh. Could I make a bargain with time, I would roll back 16 centuries so that I might meet any Roman centurion who served on the wall of Hadrian during the 300 years of its military occupation. I would shake him warmly by the hand, stand him a drink and say, "I'm sorry, Marcus. I sympathise with you. I crossed the wall from Carlisle, which you call Lug Valium, well, you give it a strange name anyway, to Newcastle on Tyne, which you knew as Pons something or other, also equally unpronounceable. And it rained, Marcus. How it rained. 73 miles of rain over the wall, and by Jupiter, such rain!" He would, I am sure, look interested. It still comes down like... It's... Oh, yes, he's asking now. He's a Roman, isn't he? So he's Italian. Aye. It still comes down like a Hades, does it? He would ask. Fancy that. We thought it was organised by the local gods against the Empire. You never hear Romans speaking with an Italian accent, do you? Aye, mamma mia. He used to put out the cookhouse fires and get into the wineskins. That's because I'm sure they didn't really talk like that. You couldn't possibly have them talking like that. It'd be ridiculous. Anyway, he used to put out the cookhouse fires, get into the wineskins, give the Spanish cavalry fog, and when you stood on the parapet it would beat up against your face, blinding you, and oozing behind your chin strap, make your face smart like blazes. Jove bolts! What a wall, Jove bolts! I suppose you had duck boards. And did they send you mouth organs and woolies from Rome? I imagine you all sitting up there on wet nights singing We are Fred Carno's army. What ruddy good are we? Yes, he says in Roman accent. We had a song like that to the hymn of the Vestal Virgins. The Picts and the Scots used to sit out in the other side of the wall, too wet to raid us, and join in. We had another song on the Centurion's Mess about the troops on the wall. There was only one Rome to every mile, you know. There was only one Roman to every mile, you know. Oh, right, okay. The rest were Dacians, and Thracians, and Moors, and Scythians, and some others, whatever they are. A kind of recruiting office poster. Types of Roman army. The song, I'm sorry, I have no concept what I'm reading here. The song went, "Oh, the Tungrians and Austrians and Batavians and the Greeks." It had a good chorus and was very popular with the regulars in Delver and Eboracum. We say Chester and York now. Oh, do you really? We had another song on the wall. Old soldiers never die, never, never die. Old soldiers never die, they only sneeze away. Which was true. The Picts used to say that as long as a regular legion kept its nose, there was no need to sound the war horn. We were a fine sight saluting the governor of Britain or a visiting Caesar with the famous legendary sneeze. The sneeze of the faithful 30th, we used to call it. I suppose you got leave? Leaf? Leaf? Not likely. The wall was a life sentence. The first thing we did when we got up was to marry. When we got what? The first thing we did when we got there was to marry and settle down. A British girl who couldn't marry on Hadrian's Wall. Well, I can't imagine it. I was ballista instructor to the 4th cohort of Gauls at Vindolana. You should have seen the raw recruits from every part of the world who wandered up and down the wall, with half the gods of the earth hidden away in their vests. We spoke about 25 different languages, from something or other to something else. I had an old-timer in my cohort who used to be the Batman to Vespasian. He was always changing his religion. If a Moorish or Egyptian god answered a prayer, he would buy an image of it, and at once, he would buy an image of it at once and pray to be transferred to Londonium. But the gods of the wall knew him too well. What is he on about? Well, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop. It's just about to change his tune now. I'm going to stop there because I'm struggling to read now, and that's always a sign to put the book away, particularly with all these terrible Roman names, which are unpronounceable, improbable, and you're all talking to yourself. So I cycled past Robert Croser's house without knowing it, says Turbo Stream. We should be able to fill a plane to Madrid. Great. Okay, well, that's that then. Thanks very much for coming by, and hope you enjoyed the reading. You were all just chatting away. So that's that. I don't have a Vogue show tonight. Fantastic. So I will catch up with you all tomorrow. There's a walk with good old ringer Ollie in the morning for you. And then tomorrow there'll be a Vogue show in the afternoon. We'll carry on with the reading again tomorrow. And that will all be good. Alrighty, take care. Thanks very much for watching, and I will catch up with you next time.